Just ask and you shall receive. You ask for something good, you're going to get it. And that's a good thing to help you to cope, and all of us to cope and understand what's going on here. Because I can understand an atheist thinking God's a big fat a-hole. Sure, all the terrible things, and you say he's got all this power, then why is gravity so deadly? If he's got the gravity gauge, you can tweak it so where it's no longer deadly. And the heat and the cool, what's going on there? And the stinging, miserable insect, what an a-hole. Why would he do that? You know, this hornet, yellow jacket thinks, well, you know, I can attack and kill this. I don't care you made the image and likeness of God. I supersede you. I'm more powerful. I can literally kill you. Okay, it almost happened to me, actually. I had an incident, and weed whacking. I was down in the Santa Cruz Hills, Ponderosa golf course. This guy, he was a doctor from my church, Seventh-day Adventist Church. I was working at his property there. Just a hilly area. Weed whacking the sides of the hill along the driveway. This, what do you call it? Driveway that went back and forth, you know, going S turns up the hill, so that the hill is less steep. That's why they do that. But I was weed whacking on the side of the hill, and I came across a hornet's nest, and Mamma Mia! And I was wearing a face mask, and all I felt was just this intense burning. They were inside my face mask. They were getting in my hair, going through, and you can see my hair. I probably had even more hair back then. We're going back probably 15 years, but more than that. But 17 years. But I got attacked by it was a swarm of hornets. I hit a hornet's nest, and you can't see it till you're right up on it. When you're weed whacking, debris is flying everywhere anyhow from the weeds you're cutting down. So when these bugs start flying, you don't see them right away, no matter how good your eyes are, because there's debris everywhere. So the first thing you feel is that you're being attacked. And I had left my weed whacker running. I threw it down. I ran up the hill. I threw my face mask down, ran up the hill. I was headed for water. I just knew I needed to get near water. So I turned the water on, and I'll tell you what, I blacked out and I vomited almost simultaneously. And I guess his wife, the doctor's wife, had heard the commotion, or at least she heard the weed whacker sitting idle, and she came out to investigate. She might have heard me by the hose. I don't remember. I wasn't screaming. But I almost died. I came this close to dying. Her husband, the next thing I knew, he came up the hill with a shot of adrenaline. This is what you get. I'm allergic to bees. A lot of people are. But the point is that, yeah, I could see where somebody would think God's a big fat a-hole. But remember, he had two choices when he was stuck between a rock and a hard spot, at the inception of humanity, when he invented us, he created us. He could either have these beings made fully in his image and likeness. That means having free will, free choice, or he could make them automatons like the animals, okay, because that's what essentially the animals are. They just go by pure instinct. That's all they have to go by. We screwed it up for them. I mean, their instincts were not to be afraid of us initially, but we screwed everything up. Now we have to eat them. The predator and prey thing came with, this curse, the fall of man, the original sin, the knowledge of good and evil. When all that took place, when God was angry that he even created us at that point. That's the way the story goes. But so you understand that people don't understand, but they really should understand. They should know. They should be educated. They should be informed. This wisdom, this knowledge should be shared openly with people. If you're a friend of God, you're a friend of man. If you're a friend, you'll help people understand so that you can help them to cope and contend, to know who to blame and who not to blame at least. And to see clearly, and to say, just to clear up the muddied and bloodied water with this thick veil of darkness that's been, this shroud that's been pulled down over all of our eyes. We've got to help each other. And that doesn't mean some people. That means the most deceived of all are the ones we're supposed to reach out to. Because Jesus didn't say, love your enemies too. No, he said especially love your enemies, because he said, what credit is that to love those who love you, but you should love those who despise you without a cause, love those who hate you, love your enemy, essentially, is what he was saying. And that this really showed that you were carrying your weight, your fair share of the weight of the cross for humanity, for God. And saying, yes, I want your will to be done. I want people to understand. I want people to be happy. I want people to be free. And if they follow you, God Almighty, they will be. They will understand this picture clearly. They will understand how Satan has operated through the money and the money masters of misery, through having the copyright to this stuff. This has been going on for thousands of years. Thousands of years, the same crap has been going on, and it's coming to an end. So we all need to understand, and we need to know what we need to prepare for. We need to be prepared to be free. And that means not some of us free, but that means all of us need to be free. So the parable Jesus taught about the pearl of great value, and how a man, when he found it, he sold everything he could and he bought that pearl. Okay. That's how it is with our enemies. That these are the pearls, as much as we, through our human eyes, the way we've been programmed to think, these are wretched, vile individuals. But to God, those are the pearls of great value that we are to try to reach. Because when somebody has been forgiven much, they will love much. That's the way. As an allegory, we need to see it like that, like a debt being forgiven them. Because the righteous, all that the Father has is theirs, like the story of the prodigal son. To the righteous, disgruntled son who says, yeah, but I've been by your side, yet you throw this party for him, and he squandered his inheritance, and he didn't understand it. But that's the way God works. He always wants us to reach up to his understanding of things, his paradigm of things. And when we do that, we'll be empowered. But we've got to have humility too. Low ego, low vanity, low conceit, but high and low, high humility. Be humble of heart, and to and this really is being as best as we can. It's being all we can be. Okay, by being willing to step up to the plate and carry our share of the weight of the cross of humanity. That's all. That's it. That's what we're doing. And then we're doing works for God. We are storing true treasures in heaven, because the treasures that we think of off the bat, right? We're thinking silver, gold, money, possessions, all this kind of crap. But his true treasure is souls, you and me. So at the end of the day, we've got to see things through his eyes and be on the same page. As difficult as that is, and it is a carrying the cross, and we're all carrying the cross for each other. I've been driving around with an InfoWars sticker on my car. I think that hasn't been trying at times. I've thought many times my window might get busted out or something, and it hasn't happened. But I've had that InfoWars sticker on my car for at least probably 7 years or so now, and I've never had an incident. But you can imagine it stirs up a lot of hatred. People that don't understand, they're willfully ignorant, prescribed to the ignorance is bliss philosophy. They're not willing to carry the cross for InfoWars. But that's it. Alex Jones, I've got to carry the cross for you, brother. So, yeah, we've got to, watch the things we say. And we've got to be very, very introspective, circumspective, and consider the implications, what James taught, what a huge forest fire has started from such a small spark. So this idea of, the straw, this is a gentle process that we need. Just exposing the evildoers is plenty good enough, okay? They don't need to be just condemned to hell and taunted, okay? And this teasing and stuff. It really, because you could be accused of bullying. And I know that's something that you reject. But you're just being who you are, and you're very passionate, and people appreciate that, and they admire that about you, and I do too. But, we are all in on this thing together. And whoever we support and defend, we are carrying a cross for that person. So I'm carrying the cross for Trump, so I would say the same thing to Trump. And he's kind of gotten the message. He's a smart guy. And I know that, at least I'm all in with trusting in Trump to do what he says. I think he's the blue-collar president. I do. In which case, he's going to fight for the regular guy. But, it's a tough fight, and people are going to feel like they're being slighted because they say, well, why do I have to charge less for this? This is it. This whole thing feeds on itself. This chain reaction, inflation, okay, it's a bad thing. It's a cause and effect situation. It's one thing leading to another. Okay, it's self-perpetuating. It's feeding on itself. Do you understand? Okay, if your cost of living goes up and it's not based on any kind of reason, like for instance the gas shortages because of these refineries being underwater in Houston, and so they raise your price a few pennies. I don't know why. To me, that doesn't even make any sense, because if they've got enough supply to be selling it, period, then the price doesn't seem like it's going to make much difference. So I don't think the supply is really affected. They're using that as a pretext. But nevertheless, one way or another, but that would be the only time you would ever see your cost of living temporarily go up. Okay, if we really had supply and demand principles at work, it'd be a temporary thing, as there was a temporary shortage, a drought in the land, some other natural disaster like this. That's the only time you would see it happen, when you see prices spike, which means it cost of living inflation. And foremost, in that market basket of good economists refer to, you've got to include your essentials: food, shelter, potable water, and energy costs. All those things are the most important things we need to look at. And those things have inflated dramatically over the last 50 so years, okay? While other things have gone dramatically down in price, like VCRs, okay? Because that's where free market supply and demand actually worked, is in the trinkets, knickknacks, luxury items that nobody really needs. Okay, so they're dirt cheap, and they have to be because they have a lot of real competition, where people want more than their market share, so they'll lower their prices and they'll steal all the business. But there's price rigging going on. There's special interest groups. Let's say you run a cell phone company. You compare. You want to be, maybe until you feel like you've gotten your market share, you'll lower your prices and you'll steal other customers from other cell phone companies. You'll steal their customers. But then you start saying, let's get along, and we'll lock everybody else out, because now, I got to show this profit margin, and wages have fallen below the cost of living, so I got a better deal with my wages, and you're not going to be able to do it anymore. So it's like insurance companies do this same thing. Okay, it happens all the time. It's price fixing, price rigging. So they're manipulating markets. They're working together as a unit, as a monopoly. Okay, so in that sense, they're acting unilaterally against the best interests of the people. And this is what's happening in government, because they all put two and two together, working in the governance of bureaucracy. And they say, hey, well, if we can get taxes up, that's good for me. Even though I got to pay those same taxes, I could give myself a raise to offset my increase in the cost of living. You understand? So everybody's looking at their own offset for the cost of living increases. If they can do it and they get away with it, fine. That's why all these actors and rappers and athletes, they go into these multi-million-dollar categories for their contracts. Every year they get these multi-millions of dollars. But if you go back just 50 years, okay, if somebody made $1 million a year, I mean, they were, wow, that's a lot of dough. So it's been offset then, some and much more. That's how the wealth disparity increases. And so many people want to go along with it because the equation has worked in their favor. It's sick, man. We're twisted. We're screwed up. We're evil. We've got to admit that fundamentally we're evil, because we are not letting God be our guiding light in deciding what our paradigm should be, what our reality, what our attitude, what our spirit should be about all this stuff. We're not understanding. We're choosing willful ignorance. Ignorance is bliss philosophy. And it's horrible. And people say, no, I'm not willing to carry my fair share of the cross for humanity. No, I just want to be a pissant. I just want to live for this world. That's it. The temporal things, I die, I go into a hole, and I don't have to deal with it anymore. I don't think about it. Okay, that's it. So they're going to get what they expect. See, this is the risk of getting too comfortable with things. You've gotten all the comfort, like it's written clearly in Scripture. Don't expect anything more. You've gotten all your comforts. So it's not going to be any better in the hereafter. You got nothing to look forward to. You haven't worked for it. You got to work for it by carrying your fair share weight of the cross of humanity and God, for humanity, in order to get that. This is where what Victor Hugo taught is very relevant and important. We've got to understand it. You don't want to be too well heeled and get cocky with God and man. Like the passage, the parable that Jesus taught about the guy that had all this great wealth, had a great harvest, and he figured he'd kick back, take it easy, eat, drink, and be merry, with all his wealth. Okay, never realizing that his life was going to be demanded of him that very night. That's it. That's all he's got then. So where's he going from there? Okay, that's it. Like the story of Lazarus. Lazarus had it hard in life, but then when he got to where he's going, he was taken care of. That his suffering was assuaged. His burden was lifted. His pain was anesthetized, allegorically speaking, wherever he went from that point on. But in the meantime, he fought the good fight. He got into the fray for humanity, for God. He jumped in the pool and said, this is my burden too. We're in this together. Your welfare literally is my welfare. My welfare literally is your welfare.